Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hollow Wells channel. I'm your host Brett Wells, and today I think I'm going to be showing you what very well might be my favorite thing in my collection. And as you can see behind me, I've got quite a bit of a collection going. So, at some point last year, I decided that being as Halloween was one of my favorite movies of all time, it's now probably my favorite, that I would like to have a couple Michael Myers masks. I'd like to have an H1 and an H2. Seeing as Halloween 2 is the one I grew up with. That's the one I watched the most. For the longest time, that would probably be considered my favorite horror movie. But as I got older and I watched the original Halloween more and more, I realized that that's my favorite horror movie, and it might be my favorite film of all time. So, I also wanted to start attending cons more. I saw pictures of people I knew attending cons, and I was like, that looks like a good time. So maybe an H1 mask signed by Nick Castle and an H2 mask signed by Dick Warlock, the actors who played Michael in the first movie and the second. And yes, the actor that plays Michael Myers in the second movie's name is Dick Warlock, which is the coolest fucking name I've ever heard in my entire life. But I digress. So, last year, decided to get these masks. Now, when I first started, I found on eBay a really good H2 mask. Really good, not perfect, but it was fine. For the H1, I actually bought a Trick or Treat Studios H1 mask. And it's a great mask if you're getting started out for the price point and all that stuff. Even better if you can find someone to rehaul it and make it more accurate. But as I sat these things on my shelf and I just would look at them over time, I'm the kind of collector that collects stuff and just stares at it. I don't know, I'm weird. I kind of realized it wasn't the Halloween one mask. So, I'd buy a new mask, and then I'd realize that's not the mask. Then I'd buy a new mask, and I'd buy a new mask, and I'd buy a new mask. I spent so much money, I bought so many masks going through eBay, Mercari, Facebook groups, flea markets, you name it. Each time the mask got better. But as I'm buying more masks, I'm learning more and more about the mask, and as I do that, I realize there's only probably 3 legitimate options for what I'm looking for. And the price, while not cheap, is doable. So, I'm not going to get into the history of Myers masks because I'm still learning, I'm still educating, and I don't want to just spew out possible false information on that front. I can tell you that the original Michael Myers mask was a Don Post Captain Kirk mask, in case you didn't know. Captain Kirk from Star Trek. Never seen a Star Trek, but I know who William Shatner is. I know how he looks, and you can kind of see it in the face. So every time you see Michael Myers, you're seeing Captain Kirk. So, okay, cool. I need a mask that looks like a Captain Kirk mask converted into a Michael Myers mask. So, as I learned more and more, I realized that there's all these different mask makers, companies, rehaulers, all this stuff. The mask making community is insane. But I noticed that I kept seeing a few masks that I was just drawn to. And the thing they all had in common are that they were made by the same mask maker. They all come from NAG masks. And if you ask most people in the community, most of them will say that NAG masks are the most accurate Myers mask. Now, of the NAG masks, there are 3 contenders for what I was looking for. The first being the PS78. Now, the PS78 stands for 78. PS stands for phone scene. The iconic scene in which Michael puts the receiver up to his head and just breathes It's got kind of a what's known as the Castle stretch. Now, Nick Castle played Michael in the original. He's not the only person in the original to wear the mask, but when he wore the mask, the shape of his head caused the mask to droop down. It's a specific look. So if you're going for the look of the mask on Michael, that's one a lot of people are geared towards. Now, that wasn't my pick. We will get into the PS78 because I do own one and it will have a part to play in my collection in the near future. The second mask is a NAG 75K. Now, with the 75K, it's pretty spot on. And I do have a 75K, but I had that converted to an H2 Blood Tears. Again, something we will look at in the future. But the number one choice for me, the one that I like the most, the one that looks like the mask itself, is the NAG Proto 98. It even looks like the mask for the infamous closet scene. Like, when I see this mask, I think that's Michael Myers' mask. That's the one I needed to have. But there's also, I don't know, with the NAG masks, they're great. But they look even better when they're rehauled. Now, there's so many different rehaul artists, and I'm not going to get into all of that at the moment. I will in the future because I have different masks rehauled by different people. But in my opinion, and it's okay if you do not agree with this, the best rehauler in the business, the best person to make a Myers mask look like a Myers mask, to me, is an artist by the name of James Carter. Also goes by JC. So I knew I needed the Proto 98. I knew I wanted it rehauled by James Carter. Now, the thing with James Carter is he has a list because he is known in the community as one of the best mask rehaulers, and he gets a lot of orders. So I could jump on this wait list and I could wait years. Unless you pay for express turnaround, which it's a lot shorter time. I did do that for my Blood Tears mask, which we'll look at later. But in this case, I wanted to find an already rehauled NAG Proto 98. Now, I've actually found one. There's some on eBay, there's some on Mercari, but I went through a Michael Myers Facebook mask group. And now with that, it's kind of tricky. With a lot of people in the mask community, there are a lot of good dudes, women, people that will sell you masks, PayPal, and they ask for you to do friends and family. Now that's kind of made me a little nervous, but somebody posted the mask I needed at a price that I could afford. It would have hurt to lose that money, but I had the money. I needed this mask. It would eat at me if I did not pull the trigger, and I am so glad I did. So, at the beginning of this year, I finally received my JC NAG Proto 98. And it was made last year, so it's like getting a new car. It's perfect. It's what I needed. And it's so fresh. So, without further ado, I'd like to actually show you the mask itself. Let's see here. This right here is a Proto 98 rehauled by James Carter. Now, we'll get into what's on the sides of these necks in just a second. But I want to kind of zoom in, let you get the detail, the glue lines, the fading on the neck, on the ears, the nose, the eyebrows, the rehairing. The hair on this thing is insane. The hairline. Let's take a look at this side. So when I see this thing, this, to me, is the Michael Myers mask. And I have not even tried to put this thing on my head. I believe it's a 23.5 to 24 inch. So it's not gonna fit on this. And I don't wanna potentially ruin it in the first place. So I got the mask. what's next? Now, last year at the Halloween 45 convention in LA, I got all of them. By this point, I had gotten a Myers mask from every film, and I got each of them signed by the actors that played them, outside George Wilbur, who sadly passed. But I did get an H1 signed by Nick Castle, but it wasn't this. So I knew I had to meet Nick Castle again to get this baby signed. And then a stroke of luck, something that I wasn't even thinking about doing when I got the mask in the first place, a convention in Pittsburgh, well, Monroeville, if you want to be specific, called Steel City Con, announced that director John Carpenter was going to be attending. So I knew if I was going to have him sign anything, I needed him to sign my H1 mask. He is the guy behind Halloween, behind Michael Myers, behind all of it. I just knew I had to meet him and get him to sign this mask. I also had him sign the back of my head so I could get it tattooed because I'm mentally ill. And that was great too. I met the man. He was fantastic, super nice. Hope I'm not out of line here. Super high, which I respect. Man just wants to get high and play video games nowadays. But in his heyday, he is one of the greatest directors of all time, in my opinion. Definitely in my top 3. With movies such as They Live, The Thing, Halloween, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China. The man made a lot of really great movies, and I suggest you look up his catalog if you have not watched any of them and cross those off your lists. But back onto the focus. I met him. I needed him to sign my mask. And on this side, right there, is John Carpenter's signature. Now, wasn't planning on it, so glad I did. Looks nice on there, and the mask is halfway to where I want it to be. Now, Nick Castle attends a lot of cons I've been to. He did one in Louisville back in September, and I thought about taking the mask there. I did go and meet him there. I had him sign something else. I did not want to haul the mask down to Kentucky and deal with that, because I knew he was also attending something called GalaxyCon in Columbus this month. So I made sure I had the mask ready for Nick Castle to sign. I've met Nick now 4 or 5 times, each time just the nicest dude. So glad I got to meet him and had him sign right there. So now if you look at the mask, both sides, John Carpenter, Nick Castle, Proto 98. Now, as I said, these masks aren't cheap. I'm not going to get into the pricing, but you have to order a mask. If you want to go through the whole process, you can order a mask through NAG and either have the mask sent to you, or you can just have a blank sent straight to James Carter. If you're on James' list, you can wait for your turn and he will rehaul it and he will make it gorgeous. If you got the extra money lying around and you don't want to wait as long, I highly suggest the express turnaround. I did it and I got my mask back in 3 weeks. It depends on time of year. Obviously, towards Halloween, he probably gets more of a buildup, so even express probably still takes a while. But the best in the game, bar none, in my opinion. Or you can go the route I did and try to look for an already rehauled mask. You're gonna spend a lot of money, but if you're in the market for the mask, I say do it. So yeah, here it is. My NAG Proto 98. Rehauled by JC, 2023. Signed by John Carpenter, signed by Nick Castle. An absolute beauty. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'd go into detail about all the masks and all the history and all that stuff, but you can find that information out in other videos done by people that actually know more than me, and I highly suggest it. If you're new into collecting, and you're on a budget, hey, get the Trick or Treat Studios mask. It's nice. You can find someone to rehaul it for cheap and make it pretty. But if you want perfect, do as I did, or do as many others have done. Get you one of these. So, hopefully you enjoyed the video. This is not going to be a weekly thing. I'm trying to do videos as much as I can. But if you do like this video, please like the video. Please subscribe. Please share. And if you want to, you can also follow me on Instagram. You can see my latest pickups and going-ons as I hunt for new horror and wrestling merch. The Instagram name is _Hollowells_. So yeah, look me up. But please subscribe at the very least. I'm trying to get more eyes on this stuff as I share more and more of my collection. Keep in mind, if you watched the first video, I did mention that I was going to be doing a life-size replica Michael Myers mannequin. Keep an eye out for that. Still waiting on a couple of things, but it's coming together so well. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I'll see you next time.